Ladies and gentlemen, do allow me to welcome on stage David Singleton.
What if I told you that the way most successful people live their lives is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day? Right now, as you sit here, someone in this room may be damaging their health as much as a heavy smoker. But they're not smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol. They're doing something far more socially acceptable and infinitely more dangerous, believing that they must choose between success and balance. Stanford research revealed that workplace stress and the fragmentation it creates kills over 120,000 people annually in America alone. Social isolation, the inevitable result of putting work first, relationships second, and ourselves last, has the same mortality impact as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Some might say, though, that this research is old data. But if anything, workplace stress has evolved into something that in 2024 researchers now call quiet cracking, where half of workforces are slowly disengaging, not by choice, but because they're internally unraveling under pressure that they can't escape. But you know, we're kind of doing this to ourselves voluntarily. And today I want to challenge that, what we've been told about success, thinking big and mastering balance, and introduce you to something that for some, I don't know, what if it could save your life? The understanding that you don't have to choose. I'd like to offer a perspective that you can think big and have balance. In fact, you must have both. Until now, we've accepted a fundamental misconception about leadership and life, that we must choose between success and fulfillment, between thinking big and having balance. Prevailing wisdom suggests that you can't have it all, but what if the opposite is true? What if you can't not have it all, and imbalance is actually undermining our health, our happiness, and our performance? The Essence framework reveals that why this choice is not only unnecessary, but counterproductive. By integrating 4 fundamental domains of life across work, home, community, and self into one whole, leaders discover that balance doesn't limit ambition, more so it amplifies it. I think that this framework matters now more than ever because the cost of imbalance has become measurable and urgent, and whilst the benefits of integration have never been more accessible or more proven. I remember as a 17-year-old kid, I needed a job. I was good with my hands and terrible in the classroom, I think much to the disappointment of my parents, who were both academics. I was good at what I wanted to do and what excited me, the teachers with passion, with vision, and interest in me as a human. But at 16, I'd had enough of being forced to write neatly, not to talk in class, and learn another language from someone who I frankly disliked. And when I made the conscious decision to leave school, I realized that a full-time job wasn't easy to attain. I'd worked as part-time as a kid since I was 13, but this time it was different. I saw an advert for a commie waiter in a nearby 5-star hotel, and we'd never been to one of these, and I had no idea what a commie was, but I was keen to try everything. And I guess that's where the problem was. I didn't know what a commie was, and I'd never been to a 5-star hotel, but I somehow managed to secure an interview. And on arrival at the hotel, I thought, this is pretty cool. This was for me, I thought. You know, I marveled at how people were dressed, and they were cool, they were smart, they were drinking cocktails and having fun. Staff, on the other hand, well, they were a bit formal, a bit staid, and the restaurant manager, French and very serious. Why do you want to be a waiter, he asked me. And I knew right then and there that this was a place where I could have fun, I could learn something new every single day. I could meet new people. And I didn't have to get my hands dirty like some of the jobs I had until then. I don't, I said. I want you to teach me how to run this hotel. And that's where my first lesson in life of thinking big was realized. I worked double shifts for 2 years, and my career in hospitality took off. But what I didn't know then, what I know now, was that you can have both. Yeah, I simply worked. I now work as a coach, as an advisor to organizations and leaders in growth mode. I meet high-performance leaders of every kind, of every age, every day, and I coach from the boardroom to the bedroom. I challenge, I take leaders into their future and ask the questions that others think. I think big. I see how so many of us have lives of imbalance, where work comes first, our network second, our family third, and ourselves last. So my career all of a sudden, I'm forwarding quite a few years later, it took a sudden turn. And talk about thinking big. What could be bigger than finding myself working in Moscow? I was in a cafe one Saturday morning though, and previously I'd be juggling life as a parent, as a football chairman, and importantly, as I thought, a leader of 80-odd restaurants up and down the country to run. I realized that I'd moved from this place of subliminal command and control to one of cultural command and control. And the shift was so profound that I set myself a goal thereafter. If I can live in Russia, I can pretty much do anything. And my goal thereafter would be that every year I would learn to do something that I thought I could or would not do. Once I had a chance to work in Russia, and that was a very interesting time for me. I thought, what's next? A few years previously, I'd been to Dubai, and I witnessed how Dubai was referring to itself as this place where it was the capital of the world, and I thought, what could be bigger than this? And I knew that the UAE would emerge as one of the most forward-thinking places on earth, and I wanted to be a part of it. But it needed real courage, but I was ready to fly. And I also thought that throughout this transition, and being so focused on one area of my life that was becoming so apparent, I'd been successful in so many respects, but equally, I thought it held me back. And the cost of this imbalance, I would later learn, was to my health. As I started to focus on it, I received one of the most profound warnings that I'd ever received. David, my doctor said, you're going to die of heart disease before old age. You need to change how you live. Yeah, well, I thought I was looking good. Never better than ever before. I was now a marathon runner. But the cost of this imbalance, as I say, was quite profound. And I've since gone on to reverse my doctor's diagnosis that I was 10 to 15 years older than my cardiac age. But that took a selfless focus. And that's when I truly learned that you must have both. My genetic curiosity by this stage was, for learning, was so activated that 5 years ago, in 2020, that I gave up my career as a vice president of Hard Rock, a job that I dreamt of as a child. And it was a global role that I'd had for so long. And I enjoyed it, but I gave it up to do what I do now. My mentors had encouraged me to write, to speak, to coach. You're a coach leader, said once a coach. Never forget your rookie skill, said another. So I put my skills into my own work. But I was also writing a book, and one that is taking, frankly, a generation to write. But in my research, I consulted with a Vedic astrologer, and he said to me that I should take my wisdom to the stage. Take it to a higher level, he said to me. And my father, who was a brilliant writer and a speaker, and he would be saying the same to me now, and I kind of miss him, at times like this. And I promised myself that one day I would emulate his wisdom when I believed I was ready. I've written, I've coached, and now I'm speaking to you from here. But looking back, my early mentor gave me these incredible opportunities for growth. But we never learnt the art of mastering balance. And it is with this where we've all known people who have suffered as young professionals, or seasoned leaders with burnout, toxic relationships, workplace bullying, mental health crises, and the ill health that I talked to, and so much more. And I met all of these things and know that when you're in the heart of them, you frankly see no way out. But there is, and the thing is, for many that are here, and they know they simply can't see the way out. And here's where I'd like to introduce you to the Essence framework, born from the work that I do. But just let me reinforce this. We've accepted this misconception that we must choose between success and fulfillment, between thinking big and having balance, that you can't not have it all. And imbalance is undermining our health, our happiness, and our performance. And we see it every day within ourselves, our family, our friends, and especially at work. The research is compelling. Half of the leaders you're surrounded by are experiencing burnout. A quarter of the adults report feeling fundamentally lonely and living a fragmented life that creates the health risks that I talked about earlier. The difference lies in understanding that authentic success isn't built on sacrifice and imbalance. It's an integration of all of life domains with balance that suit ourselves and nobody else. The Essence framework begins with 4 powerful outcomes that every leader seeks: fulfillment, harmony, engagement, and influence. Fulfillment emerges when our work resonates with our deepest values. It's what transforms mundane tasks into meaningful contributions. It's what gets some people out of bed on a Monday morning, it's whilst others drag themselves through the week. Harmony arises when the various elements of our lives complement rather than compete with one another. It's feeling present wherever we are, not constantly distracted by what we're neglecting elsewhere. Engagement reflects our ability to connect authentically with others. It's building relationships that energize rather than deplete us. And it's the quality of our interactions, not just their quantity. Influence is the impact that we create through the alignment of our words, our actions, and our presence. And it's why some leaders inspire lasting change while others merely direct temporary compliance. But these outcomes aren't separate. Goals are to be pursued independently. They're interconnected results that emerge when we integrate the fundamental domains of life. When these domains fragment, we struggle. When they integrate, we thrive. But let me just show you how these 4 domains and how they work together. Work isn't just about productivity, it's about purpose. Home isn't just where you sleep, it's where you recharge and reconnect. Community gives your perspective beyond your immediate world. And self is what we neglect most. Yet it is the foundation for everything else. And leaders who create that space to think clearly make better decisions. But it gets more powerful at the intersections. When work and self align, you get space, room to innovate and think clearly. When self and community connect, you discover identity, connecting with your true self that inspires, and the ability to create positive change that reflects who you truly are. When community and home intersect, you find responsibility. Caring for those around you becomes more natural and purposeful. And when home and work integrate, you achieve balance. Not through separation, but through the alignment where you raise healthy boundaries, while integration that matters most. We develop strengths of comfort, of privacy, of satisfaction and voice. And at the center is where all 4 domains integrate perfectly, when we discover essence, our most authentic, effective, and sustainable self. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, but emerged more integrated than leaders with every advantage, proving that you can have both. His work became his education, his home, his cell, his community, fellow prisoners, and his self-development never stopped. Integrated leaders show higher productivities. Their teams have more than double retention rates, and they avoid the health risks that this subject talks about. I've witnessed countless transformations through this framework, and they all reveal the same truth. The choices we think we're making, success versus balance, ambition versus well-being, they're false dichotomies. So how do we move from integration to creating our own essence? And I was introduced to this by a friend of mine, John Register, a war veteran turned Paralympian, a leader who elected to have his leg amputated rather than live a life of pain through a freak accident. He knew that through the power of visionary mindset, he could rise again. Mindset keeps you trapped in your current reality, seeing only the choices you think you have, the limitations you believe are real, the either-or decisions that feel inevitable. Mindset is the ability to see your future integrated self, to envision the person you become when all four domains work in harmony. It's seeing beyond your fragmented existence to the leader who has mastered balance. Remember that 17-year-old kid who told the hotel manager he wanted to learn to run the place? Today I understand that the boldest ambition isn't just to achieve success, is to achieve wholeness. When I said in my interview that I wanted him to teach me to run the hotel, I was intentionally thinking big. And what I'm sharing with you today is that you can think big and have balance. You can, in fact, have both. In fact, you must have both. The most successful people who refuse to choose between success and balance know they can, because they have discovered even what Nelson Mandela learned even in prison. And today I want to leave you with this thought on mastering balance. When you find your essence or your purpose, you have clarity. And with clarity you have strength, and with strength you have the courage to do anything, not just for yourself, but for everyone your life touches. Thank you.